And welcome back to Who Would Win, the last in the week of Who Would Win. There'll be another Who Would Win tomorrow, but that's just because Monday. And this one comes to us from Ghostbuster123, Shadows 82. No, Shadows 82 gave me something else. That's for next week. And Marcus K. Well, ask the question: Who would win a fight, Kratos or Gorr the God Butcher? Now, actually, if you want my real thoughts on this, like what my general opinion would be without like super in depth or with super in depth research, you can go watch Chuck on his channel. He did a video recently on this matchup, and his sentiment is pretty much the same as mine. Both are god killers. Both are slighted by the gods of their world. Both are enhanced to one degree or another. Kratos through his demigodhood, and Gorr through the use of the Necro Sword. In terms of what they were capable of doing, though, that gets a little bit more nebulous. Kratos, went through the pantheon of the gods in his world. You're dealing with like creationism, concepts like alternate timelines, universes, things along those lines. Hell, he wielded the Leviathan axe in the Ragnarok and stuff like that. It's designed to go toe to toe with Mjolnir of all things. His physical strength, enhanced Spartan rage. He actually a multitude of weapons. He doesn't have many abilities beyond that, though, is a weird thing. He's mostly just physicality, skill, and in a wide array of weapons. But he literally was able to go toe to toe and defeat Zeus. Keep up with the Titans Atlas, Kronos, killed Ares, then went through the Greek pantheon. His power and strength is, he beat his cousin Hercules in straight out combat, who we know the myth of Hercules now. So he is nothing to take lightly. That said, though, Gorr wields a weapon that existed that pretty much kind of predated our universe to some degree, or not quite, but was created by a being who predated the universe. The Necro Sword, more or less, gave him the power of a god. And really, all of Gorr's powers come from the Necro Sword. That said, however, the Necro Sword is an insanely effed up, powerful weapon. Its only real weaknesses are sound and light, and only on the intense side of the spectrum. Even Thor wasn't able to really beat him with Mjolnir, because Mjolnir produces lightning. Ultimately, he got beaten by, by writing, more or less, is what he got beaten by. It was basically like the realization he became what he hated, having an imagined combination with his kid, and then basically giving up the power. But the Necro Sword allows him basically enhanced physicality, survive in space, not needing to eat or sleep. Summoning sentient individuals to fight on his behalf, or mindless slaves, really, not sentient, but living creatures shadow creatures to fight on his behalf that could challenge King Thor for hours. King Thor, mind you, is arguably stronger than Odin, who is a multiversal level being. Thor himself is able to move the World Tree, which is a representation of multiple universes as well. And Gorr has bitch smacked Thor around multiple times. He is capable of wrapping himself in armor, surviving a dip in the sun, surviving dips in black holes. He can destroy planets. He has massacred gods even stronger than Thor. Like, Gorr is an individual who is revenge incarnate, really. Single-minded, and ultimately just wants the destruction of all the gods. And he almost got it at certain points. Gorr is by far one of the more unique villains to come out of recent comics. I did like, even though it was not a one-to-one by any means, I did like what they did with him in Ragnarok. But if you are to ask me who wins in this fight, I will probably lean towards Gorr. The reason for that is the feats that both these guys have shown, are limited in scope for Kratos, because he's only got so many games and lore to go off those games, although there are some comics with him as well. And B, Gorr has a lot more extensive history. It's also fair to say that the Marvel gods, based on what we've seen them capable of doing within the comics, do usurp the God of War gods in terms of what they're capable of doing. But this is all conjecture, because you can interpret many different things, many different ways within those stories. For instance, the World Tree in Ragnarok versus the World Tree in Marvel. There are so many ways to interpret that. It's very hard to really piece together what a true power scaling would be with those types of characters. But look, I would say this: while Kratos does have access to God knows how many weapons, he still has to try to rotate between them. Whereas All Black is a sentient weapon that will respond to the user's will immediately, and that's something Kratos just does not have on call to deal with. Now, if you want, again, you want a better idea of my more broad thoughts on this topic, again, I would go suggest watch Chuck's video on Gorr versus Kratos. He broke it down pretty well, in my opinion. But look, my money would be on Gorr, comic Gorr, mind you. If we're talking about movie Gorr, oh no, Kratos would smash, just completely bitch smack around. First off, Kratos would probably bitch slap around most of the MCU, because the MCU counterparts to a lot of these characters in the comics are just not as strong. Cap is arguably as strong as he is in the comics. Even Tony isn't as strong. Hawkeye's not as strong. Natasha's not arguably as strong. Honestly, Cap's maybe arguably one of the few individuals who is as strong. But hell, even Clark, Superman, is in the DCU, is not as strong as, by any stretch of the means, as comic Superman. So yeah, and I think part of that's because you got to make a character somewhat relatable and identifiable. So yeah, ultimately, I would go Gorr. Go watch that Chuck video I suggested if you want a better idea of my take. But this is my general thoughts. This was not going to be a very in-depth one. A, because I'm a little pressed for time, and B, there's not much really to say in this particular fight. But again, it's just my opinion. What do you know? Let me know what you think. Until then, thanks for watching. See you later.